and Frankenstein or Superman. All I wanna do is rise.
Remember being a kid in the 1980s? The kind of freedom that would make today's parents call Child Protective Services? When you left the house at sunrise and didn't come home until the streetlights flickered on and nobody wondered where you were? The 1980s was the last decade of true childhood independence. Kids ruled the neighborhood streets, parents stayed out of the way, and somehow we all survived to tell the tale. Today, half of these things would trigger Amber Alerts. But back then, just another Tuesday. Let's dive into 28 things kids did in the 1980s that would absolutely shock parents today. How many of these do you remember? Number 1. Kids didn't need to explain where they were going. A scribbled note on the kitchen counter that said, "Riding my bike," was considered detailed communication. It didn't say where. It didn't say when you'd be back. Just that you were on a bike. Somewhere. Parents accepted this because the whole neighborhood was the babysitter. Every parent on the block kept an eye out, and if you did something wrong 3 streets over, your mom somehow knew about it before you got home. Today, that same note would trigger a missing persons investigation. Number 2. You're 8 years old and your mom hands you $5 and a note. Your mission? Ride your bike a mile to the corner store, buy cigarettes, bread, and a glass bottle of soda. Don't break the bottle. Don't lose the change. And you did it. You navigated traffic, made the purchase, balanced everything on your handlebars, and returned with the correct change. The store clerk never questioned an 8-year-old buying cigarettes with a note. Today, that parent would face criminal charges. Number 3. When you got thirsty, you found the nearest garden hose, turned it on, and drank whatever came out. Hot water that had been sitting there all day, you let it run for 3 seconds. Dirt on the nozzle? You wiped it with your shirt. The garden hose was the neighborhood water fountain. Kids from 3 streets over knew which houses had the best hoses. Nobody worried about bacteria or lead pipes. Today, that same water would require a 14-point safety inspection. Number 4. Saturday morning meant freedom. You ate breakfast and were out the door by 9 a.m. Your parents had one rule: be home when the streetlights came on. No check-ins, no cell phones, no text me when you get there. You could be at the creek, at a friend's house 3 neighborhoods over, or exploring the woods. Your parents had no idea. The whole day was yours, and that freedom felt infinite. Number 5. BB guns were weekend entertainment. Groups of neighborhood kids gathered for epic battles, shooting at each other with real BBS. The rules: no face shots, no crying. The sting was part of the fun. Welts on your arms and legs were worn like war wounds. Parents knew what you were doing and barely blinked. Just don't shoot anyone in the eye was the extent of the safety lecture. Today, pointing a toy gun results in police calls. Number 6. Lawn darts were heavy, metal-tipped projectiles designed to stick into the ground, and occasionally into people. You threw sharp, weighted darts as high as you could, hoping nobody walked into the landing zone. Parents watched from lawn chairs while kids hurled death spikes across the yard. If someone got hurt, you iced it and moved the target. By the late 80s, lawn darts were banned. Number 7. Chemistry sets came with real chemicals, open-flame alcohol burners, and glass test tubes. Kids created smoke bombs, small explosions, and occasionally chlorine gas in their kitchens. One common memory: mixing bleach and ammonia just to see what happened. The answer: toxic gas and a frantic scramble to open windows. But you learned what not to mix. Today, chemistry sets are so watered down they barely fizz. Number 8. Bike helmets were for professional racers. The rest of us flew down hills, popped wheelies in traffic, and wiped out on pavement with nothing but skin protecting our skulls. Many kids removed brakes to make bikes lighter and faster. Stopping meant dragging your feet. Safety was optional. Speed was everything. You crashed, you bled, you got back on. Today, riding without a helmet is practically child abuse. Number 9. Public pools in the 80s operated under swim at your own risk. Many had no lifeguard. Parents dropped kids off for the afternoon and returned hours later to find them waterlogged but alive. Cannonballs, diving contests, and underwater breath-holding happened without supervision. Older kids acted as unofficial lifeguards, but they were usually too busy roughhousing themselves. Today, unsupervised pools are lawsuits waiting to happen. Number 10. Setting up a lemonade stand required 0 permits or health inspections. You grabbed a table, mixed tap water with sugar and lemon juice, and sold it to neighbors for a quarter. Nobody questioned what was in it. Nobody inspected your ingredients. Strangers dropped coins in a jar and drank whatever you'd made in a dirty pitcher. It was a rite of passage. Today, those same stands face citations and fines in many cities. Number 11. Halloween meant freedom after dark. Kids roamed neighborhoods for hours, sometimes until midnight, with no adult supervision. You walked miles, crossed busy streets, and knocked on strangers' doors. Parents didn't inspect candy. You just ate your haul on the walk home, trading what you didn't like. You returned when your pillowcase was too heavy to carry. Today, trick-or-treating ends at 8 p.m. with parents trailing behind. Number 12. 6-year-olds walked to school without adults. Entire groups of first graders marched down sidewalks, crossing busy streets, completely unsupervised. It wasn't neglect, it was normal. Parents worked early shifts. Buses didn't cover every street. Walking was practical. Kids learned to cross at lights, watch for cars, and navigate their neighborhoods independently. Today, letting a first grader walk alone can trigger Child Protective Services. Number 13. Pocket knives were standard equipment. Boys carried them to school, traded them on playgrounds, and played games that involved throwing sharp blades at each other's feet. You threw your knife into the ground as close to your opponent's foot as possible. Nicks and cuts were common. Teachers knew kids had knives and rarely confiscated them. They were tools, not weapons. Today, bringing a knife to school means expulsion and police involvement. Number 14. Station wagons had massive cargo areas, and kids claimed them. On long road trips, children sprawled across the back with no seatbelts, sometimes even napping in the rear window like shelf decorations. Kids jumped from seat to seat, built forts with blankets, and slid across vinyl benches when the car turned. You watched the stars through the back window and fell asleep to the hum of the engine. Today, every child must be strapped into a 5-point harness until they're 12. Number 15. The 4th of July meant explosives, and kids could buy them. Roadside stands sold bottle rockets, Roman candles, and M80 to children with pocket change and zero supervision. Parents often sent their kids to buy fireworks while they got the grill ready. No ID, no questions. Kids lit fireworks in the street, sometimes aimed them at each other. Burns and lost fingers were just part of the holiday. Today, most fireworks require age verification and permits. Number 16. Pickup truck beds were free transportation. Kids piled in after Little League games, sat on the tailgate, or stood upright holding the sides as the truck rumbled down the road. The wind whipped through your hair. It felt like flying. Parents allowed it without hesitation. Weekend parades featured lines of trucks filled with standing children. Safety was an afterthought. Today, it's forbidden in most states. Number 17. Nighttime didn't mean going inside. It meant playing flashlight tag, ghost in the graveyard, or just wandering the neighborhood in the dark. Streetlights provided just enough glow, but most of the fun happened in shadows. Groups of kids roamed after dark, playing in parks, cutting through backyards. Nobody called the police. The darkness made everything more thrilling. Today, kids outside after dark are assumed to be in danger. Number 18. Before caller ID, prank calls were an art form. Kids spent entire evenings calling random numbers from the phone book, asking if their refrigerator was running or if they had Prince Albert in a can. You'd call pizza places and order absurd deliveries. The thrill was in not getting caught, in hearing the confusion on the other end before quickly hanging up. Today, every call is traced and trackable within seconds. Number 19. When a thermometer broke, kids were fascinated by the mercury. It rolled into silver beads, split apart, and came back together like liquid metal magic. And you touched it. You rolled it around in your palm. Teachers occasionally used mercury in classroom demonstrations, letting students observe up close. Nobody wore gloves. Nobody worried about toxicity. We understand now that mercury is a dangerous neurotoxin. Today, a broken thermometer triggers hazmat protocols. Number 20. Conflicts didn't end with mediation. They ended behind the school or in someone's backyard. Two kids had a problem, they fought, and then it was over. Adults rarely intervened unless it got too brutal. The fight taught you how to stand up for yourself. Afterwards, you shook hands, or at least stopped bothering each other. No suspensions, no zero-tolerance policies. Today, any physical contact means police reports and expulsions. Number 21. At age 8, some kids ran the household. responsible for younger siblings, chores, and getting dinner on the table before mom got home from work. An 8-year-old managed everything, making sure siblings did homework, starting dinner, and handling minor emergencies. Neighbors served as backup, but mostly you were on your own. Today, leaving an 8-year-old in charge would trigger Child Protective Services. Number 22. High school parking lots had pickup trucks with rifle racks mounted in rear windows, rifles clearly visible. Students drove to school with hunting rifles because they were going hunting after the last bell. Nobody panicked. Teachers knew what those guns were for. The rifles stayed locked in trucks. Kids went to class, then headed to the woods. Despite armed vehicles in every parking lot, there were 0 school shootings. Today, bringing any weapon near school triggers immediate police response. Number 23. Some high schools had designated smoking areas for students. 16-year-olds stood in groups, cigarettes in hand, chatting between classes while teachers walked past. It wasn't rebellion, it was policy. Smokers Hill, the parking lot, or the edge of school property became social hubs. Kids who didn't smoke still hung out there because that's where their friends were. Today, school campuses are tobacco-free zones with strict enforcement. Number 24. Your bike was your freedom. You'd ride for hours, covering miles of territory, exploring neighborhoods you'd never been to. Parents had no idea where you were. No GPS trackers, no phones. You navigated by landmarks, got lost occasionally, and figured out how to find your way back. That spatial awareness built skills that lasted a lifetime. Today, letting a child bike miles from home unsupervised is almost unthinkable. Number 25. Kids regularly bought cigarettes for adults. You'd walk into a store with a note from your mom and walk out with Marlboros. Sometimes there wasn't even a note. You just said, "My dad needs his usual." Adults often paid kids a quarter or 50 cents for the errand, which felt like a fortune when candy bars cost a quarter. It was just an errand, like buying milk or bread. Today, that transaction would trigger investigations and license revocations. Number 26. Playgrounds were built for durability, not safety. Towering metal jungle gyms stretched 12 feet high over concrete or asphalt. Metal slides baked in the summer sun, scorching bare legs. Merry-go-rounds spun fast enough to launch kids into the air. Seesaws had no safety stops. Kids fell hard. Broken bones and bloody noses were common. But you got up and climbed back up. Today, playgrounds have rubber surfaces, height restrictions, and safety rails everywhere. Number 27. Construction sites were unsecured playgrounds. No fences, no guards, just heavy equipment, lumber piles, and half-built structures waiting to be explored. Kids climbed through framing, jumped off platforms, and pretended they were secret agents. You'd find nails and tools left behind, and use them for whatever game you were playing. Today, construction sites have security, fencing, and liability insurance for exactly this reason. Number 28. Evel Knievel inspired a generation to build ramps out of plywood and cinder blocks and attempt jumps that had no business being attempted. You'd construct a ramp in someone's driveway and spend the afternoon launching yourself into the air. Crashes were constant. Bikes got destroyed. But each successful jump felt like flying. So you'd make the ramp higher and try again. Nobody wore pads. Just kids, bikes, and homemade ramps that barely held together. The 1980s was legendary for a reason. We learned through experience, tested our limits, and somehow survived to tell the story. What seemed normal then would shock parents today. Looking back, it's clear we lived in a different world. A world where independence mattered more than safety, where kids were expected to handle themselves, and where freedom came with real risk. Our research shows that those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s developed toughness, independence, and common sense that's harder to find today. We weren't better kids. We just lived in a time that demanded more of us. So which of these do you remember? What did we miss? Drop your wildest 80s childhood memory in the comments below. And if you survived the 1980s, hit that like button because we're survivors.